All right, class. That never gets old. So we're going to go through and do this 6.4. So there's 3 examples to do with this, and if you follow my lead, you should have a very easy time with this. So we're starting out with a smartboard that doesn't work. So I'm going to go over to example 1, and then we're going to make sure that the calculator is set to the right. So remember, we make sure everything's in degree, and when we enter our function, it's going to be here. We got to make sure I change our windows, but let's get to the example first. All right, here we go. So it says solve y equals 3 cosine 2x for x, where x is restricted to the interval from 0 to pi over 2. So that's telling me that my interval has to be in radian. My answer has to be in radian. And since I only could do this on my calculator using degrees, that means I'm going to include 0. So 0 could be one of my answers, and pi over 2 is 90 degrees. And bracket, bracket, that means that I could have an answer at 0, or I could have an answer at 90. So both of them will work. Previously we had 0, 360 where it was closed with the parentheses. Now let's go ahead and enter this. And when I do this, I'm going to make sure I enter it with that. So 3 cosine 2x. 3 cosine 2x degrees. And close that. Enter. There we go. So now I'm going to go from 0 to 90. So let's go ahead and change my window. Menu. Window. And this is 0. And this is 90. Change this to -2. This is standard for every time we do this. For the y values. To 2. Hit OK. There we go. It looks like I have one answer here. I have one answer, so let's go ahead and locate where that answer is. Menu, analyze, 0, and start here. Lower bound, upper bound, there we go. So 45 degrees is going to be my answer. So I got 45 there. Let's go back here. So my set is 45 degrees, and I only have one solution. Now we need to convert that to radian because that's what my answer is supposed to be. So 45 degrees in radian is going to be pi over 4. There we go. And yes, I am going through this kind of quickly, but if you need more time, go ahead, hit pause. Continue writing. I'm going to try and go through because it's a lot of the same steps that we've done so far. I just want to make sure I cover all the differences that we have. All right, example 2. Now, arc sine, so I'm going to rewrite this first. Arc sine is the same as inverse sine. We talked about that in a previous section. So 2 arc sine x equals pi. Now, 2 arc sine x equals pi. So I'm going to rewrite this so you can recognize it for what it is. 2 inverse sine of x equals pi. And whenever I do one of these, I need to make sure that it's equal to 0. That's going to help me out here. So it's got to be equal to 0. So from here, I'm going to subtract pi to both sides. So 2 inverse sine x minus pi equals 0. Now the interval for this, so arc sine has a special interval. So it's going to have a special interval. So if I go back and look at my notes or my reference sheet, it says the interval for arc sine is going to be from negative pi over 2 to positive pi over 2. Or if I'm doing this in degrees, negative 90 degrees and positive 90 degrees. That's on my reference sheet. Let's go ahead and enter this in the calculator. 2. So I'm going to go tab, up, clear that out. 2 in arc sine or inverse sine of x degrees close minus pi. Ooh, wrong pi. Can't get to the pi button. There you go. Okay, so pi right there. Enter. Now, I'm going to have an issue here on this. Let's go ahead and menu. Change my Windows settings. And negative 90 to positive 90. And same thing with my y values. It is my negative 2 and then my positive 2. Enter. There we go. I have one solution here. One solution. Menu, analyze, 0. So it comes out to be this right here, but it is going to be, I think there's a typo on this because I think it should be 0. Let me go back and hit the tab on this. Degree. Oh, I know why. I know why. There we go. All right, so we do have an answer here. So it is going to be, no, that's not right. All right, let's see. All right, okay, I paused it for a second, so just so I could double check this. Yeah, this one is correct. So my answer is 1. So you're gonna get an answer in between those two values, so it's gonna be 1. So I think the largest number you're gonna get is 1, the smallest number you get is gonna be negative 1 on these type of problems. Because we're not looking for an angle in degrees, we're not looking for the degree angle, because the arc is saying, I want to know where this is located at. So this is my domain, and when I wrote this down, I kind of messed up on this because it's the wrong domain. So this is the domain for x. Okay? And when we're doing arc or inverse, we look at the other interval, which would be from negative 1 to positive 1. And that's going to be for arc sine. And I will pull that up here in a moment. I just got to load that. All right, sorry about that. So right here, what we have is we're talking about the different domains. So when we're talking about an arc, which is going to be these, so this would be my arc. I I know I could write on this thing. I thought I could. Dang it. Okay, so anyway, let me highlight it. I know there's a highlighter here too. Why does this not want to work with me? Anyway, so we're talking about the range here. Oh, grabbed the wrong reference sheet. I am just not here today. I had to go give that test this morning, which is kind of annoying. So I could not do any of my work for my classes. I think that one's it. There you go. All right, here it is. So these should end up in your notes somewhere. Because when we talked about this, this is my arc, or my inverse sine, or cosine, or tangent. So that's all of these columns here. So when I'm looking for my answers, that's the range I need. So this is going to be for my windows. And that's what I messed up earlier, but since I did from negative 90 to 90, it found it. It was just in a huge window that didn't need to be that big. All right, let me go back to this. All right, so this is where my window should have been. So my x min is -1, x max is 1, and then my y min is -2, y max is 2. So that's the difference on this, because I'm not finding the normal x value on the x-axis. I'm actually finding the arc, which is going to change the windows. All right, let me go ahead and do this again for my next one. So this says the same thing. This says the same thing. So we're doing the same thing as we had, but this is going to be an arc. So inverse cosine of x equals inverse sine of 1/2. Sorry, there you go. All right, so I'm going to set this equal to 0 now. And since x is going to be the thing that I'm looking for, then I'm going to use the window for this. I'm going to use the window for this. So I'm going to use the arc for that. So let's go ahead and subtract arc sine or inverse sine to the other side. So it's going to be cosine of x minus sine inverse sine of 1/2 equals 0. So now that that's equal to 0, the thing I'm focused on is trying to find is this. Trying to find this. So my window, again, is going to be x min is -1, x max is +1. So I'm going to go back over to the page. There we go. So I'm on this one right here. So for cosine, that's the one I'm looking for. And I'm going to use this when I'm using the arc or the inverse sine. cosine of x. I'm not going to put the degree sign in this because I'm not finding the same thing. And it was minus arc sine 1/2. There you go. And that's going to be equal 0. And my window's too big, but you'll see it again. So let's go ahead and change that window now. No, window, settings. And I have -1, 1, and everything else stays the same. There we go. So there is my answer right there. So in between those, I only have 1. Let's go ahead and find that one. Menu, analyze, 0. So I have this right here, which is going to give me 0.88, blah, blah, blah. Now, this 0.86603. Now watch this, because I'm going to cheat on my answers. I like cheating. You just have to know how to cheat well. I'm going to take this. So 0.86603. Watch this. 0.86603. So I'm just entering it here so I could watch this. So now the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to look at what my answer is supposed to be. Since these answers are supposed to be in radian, let's go ahead and check out some of my values that I would have. So I know it's not 1/2, because if I'm looking at my unit circle, I would have 1/2 on my unit circle. Let's find those other ones. So next one would be a control divide. So it's going to be rad 2/2. Oh, 0.707. So that's not the same as what I had up here. That's what I'm trying to get at. So this is where we go through and try to match my calculator with what the answers are. So there's only one more thing I haven't used yet, which is control divide, and that's rad 3/2. There it is right there. So 0.8603. This one would be my answer. So by going through doing it on the calculator, and I can't really figure out what it would be because it gives me a weird decimal, because that radical is going to give me the decimal value there. So I know that my answer is supposed to be rad 3/2, because that's what I had here, right here. So there we go. All right, so back to this. So when I do this, I could actually go ahead and put in my solution. Now, this is kind of weird, right? So let's try it like this. Arc cosine, rad 3/2, close, minus arc sine, one-half. And this is supposed to be equal to 0. So from my unit circle, I'm going to bring up my unit circle here. So from my unit circle, I'm looking for where is cosine. Cosine is going to be rad 3/2. So on my unit circle, it's right here. So that's pi/6. There. So this is going to be pi/6 minus arc sine is 1/2. Arc sine is 1/2. So that means where is sine 1/2? Sine is the y value, cosine is the x value. So it's going to be pi over 6 again. And so it's minus pi over 6, and that's how that is equal to 0. Because pi over 6 minus pi over 6 is going to give me 0. So the only x value, or the only value that I can get from here, is going to be this. And this is verifying using my calculator and going back and plugging in to make sure your answer is correct. So let's see if what the calculator says about the same thing. I don't know why that doesn't work. Okay. So calculator says arc cosine rad 3 over 2 close minus arc sine of 1/2. So the calculator approximation is saying that this is going to be 0. Remember when we did this before and I say, hey, if there is at least 4 zeros in front, guarantee that's a 0. Your calculator approximation is slightly off. So this is assumed to be 0. So that makes this piece right here true. So my only answer is going to be my rad 3 over 2. All right, so if you have questions, please bring it up on class on Wednesday. Other than that, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification button. And use promo code I need to pass, 10% off merch store.